Just to let you know, I'm a proud member, retired member of the New York City Police Department, all right? And I retired from the 75th Precinct. So I do know the neighborhood, and I do know what goes on with policing in there. Couple questions. We keep hearing about numbers. We keep hearing about percentages. One of the things we have to look at, because I remember being a cop in the 7-5, and I would handle 38 jobs a tour, at least. So most of my time, it wasn't police initiated. It was me being sent to a location, all right? And I'd have job after job after job where I'd run. So when we're looking at the numbers, how much are actually like police initiated, and how much are we talking that's actually complaint driven? The other thing with the police department, when they talk about the Gardner case and stuff, is in the police department's very reactionary. So we respond to the community. So when the community complains about crime and about incidences, what happens is we get told on the police level, look, you have to keep your eye out for this, you know, and respond to this. So, I mean, the numbers, what I'm asking is, the numbers that you're looking at, do you take in consideration, or has anybody asked you to take in consideration how much is initiated by the police, individual police officer, and how much is initiated through complaints?
Right.
Because that's a big difference with arrests and summonses and everything else.
Well, no, that's a good question, because that often is the case. I mean, it's also the case with some of the, particularly folks mentioned the quality of life issues that were raised. They are often a response to not only 911 calls, but 311 calls. So we see a lot of those calls coming in are people in communities of color in particular, asking for some response on whatever the complaint might be. And so that drives, you know, the response. And so what we want our officers to do is respond, deal with the condition, and deal with it in a way that doesn't leave citizens feeling as though that they lost their dignity or they've been disrespected, but to leave them with the problem solved, which is what people want police to do. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, so I'm just asking, when you look at the numbers, consider those factors too.
Right.
The other thing too is, I mean, right now, there's an attack on police officers throughout the country. Everybody wants to second guess them. Everybody wants to think they're the bad guy. Everybody wants to say, well, why didn't you shoot them in the hand and knock the gun out of their hand? And it's like, am I John Wayne? That doesn't happen in real life. But with that going, what we have is now these police officers who run to danger when everybody else runs away from danger, okay, are actually, and the city council last year refused to pass a home rule, right, for police officers that are hurt in the line of duty, all right? They don't get 3/4. So they're putting their lives on the line. And the young woman that, I think she has 2 or 3 kids, that went up into the building and her throat was burned out, all right, she would have to be forced to retire on $29 a day, okay, that would be taxed with a Social Security offset. The young police officer got hit by the axe, okay, he'll have to retire. Now, she's going to have to support her family on $29 a day, okay? Same thing with the young police officer with the axe. These 2 officers that just got shot, if they would have survived and suffered brain damage, they would have had to figure out how to support their families on $29 a day. I mean, the morale of the police department that is sitting in New York right now has to be so low, it's unbelievable, all right, because I'm just watching it. What are we doing to boost up the morale for the police department? Because they're under attack. I heard Judge Lippman here, they want to treat cops differently than they do other people in front of the grand jury. And what's your opinion on having special grand jury proceedings only for cops, where you're going to take away the rights of individual police officers in grand jury proceedings and make their rights different than other people that are charged in front of the grand jury? Can I just get your opinion on some of those things?
Sure. Well, with respect to the officers, you probably may be aware that the mayor is looking at trying to address this. You know, we've got the tier 2, tier 3, which is really, I think, at the heart of the challenge with newer officers. So if you're in the tier 2 system, you can get the coverage and the 3/4 and so forth. If it's tier 3, you don't. But the mayor is looking at alternatives to that challenge. And so we're pretty vocal about it. And Commissioner Bratton has made, the concern known to the mayor. And so we're in discussions about what that might look like going forward.
And tactical training, I remember going through tactical training, just different situations, all right, where you give some, the police officer the gun, he goes in and shoot and don't shoot, okay? And I think a lot of my colleagues, all right, it's easy to second guess people with something that happens in a split second. Is there any way that we can get the police department to come up here and set up a tactical training exercises that they can participate in to see what it's like to be in the shoes of a police officer when you have to make a split-second decision in a life and death situation?
Well, a couple of ways to do that. First of all, let me just say that the 3-day training that I referenced earlier in the discussion is really about tactics. Tactics, both in terms of, that one of the drivers for that was sort of how do we give them the tools. The challenge with police officers, and many people don't know this, and we've said it, but it's worth repeating. Police officers who go through the police academy, they get their academic training, social science, law, police science. They also get physical school training, and during physical school training, they are taught tactics. And those tactics, however, that's the only time that they get those tactics, that tactical training, how to take down a suspect if you have to get physical and so forth. What we realize is that unless they go to a specialized unit, like plainclothes unit, OCCB, then that training that you get as a new recruit has a shelf life. And unless you personally, as the officer, decide to take the time to stay in shape and to stay up on and practice those moves, they dissipate. So the whole purpose of this 3-day training, among other things, is to give this tactical training to officers, not just for this 3-day cycle, but going forward, we increase the number of in-service training days to 5, so that in addition to their firearms training that they get twice a year, they will get at least 1 day of tactics refresher training each year going forward. So we're paying attention to that. We think we don't know if it'll make a difference. We believe it will, just simply because we're reminding officers that they have to keep up with that training. But more importantly than that, we also are giving them information on how to interact with suspects, interact with people, de-escalate rather than escalate circumstances when they respond in the calls for service, so things don't get out of hand.
Yeah, but I think you're aware, just the last one.
Okay.
I think you're aware, like, when I went through the academy, probably when you went through the academy, and you had when we went to the range, okay?
Right.
And they had the little apartment set up, or whatever else, or they had the car stop that you were doing, and teaching us, it's a shoot, don't shoot situation, okay? I just think it would be invaluable if we can make that available. I don't know if we can bring trainers up here and make it available to the people in both the Assembly and the Senate to see how things work in a matter of a blink of an eye, and how you have to make split-second decisions. Because it's easy to second-guess a police officer, right, if you're not in his shoes. So I don't know if we can make that available up here.
Well, we do make it available. We make it available, and what I would encourage you to do is, and you'd all be welcome, I already invited some of you to attend the training at the academy. We have a brand new academy at College Point. It's a 32-acre campus. It's 750,000 square foot building. First brand new facility for NYPD training in 50 years. The academy that you and I came through on 20th Street, it doesn't compare at all to this. And so We're upgrading, we've upgraded, we have a whole mock environment in that academy. I've increased the amount of scenario-based training we're gonna do for these officers so they have a better sense of what it's like to be in the street. We're also upgrading the outdoor range with better shooting platforms and targeting platforms, as well as the TAC house that exists up at the outdoor range, so that we can use that more. The more we can put new officers and give our older officers refresher training in tactics in those environments so that they can make those mistakes in those protected environments as opposed to on the street when they have to make split-second decisions, then the better off we'll all be. And we think that that's going to make a huge difference. So you are welcome to come down, and we can put you through. I mean, we have the Citizens Police Academy, and essentially what you described is what people go through, and you don't have 14 weeks to come and spend once a week going through that academy, but you can certainly come through and get our firearms training mechanism, our FATS machines, the shoot, don't shoot that you referenced. We just purchased a few more of those because citizens have requested them, and we want to take them and expose people to it. It does make a difference. It does give people some perspective on what it's like to be in the shoes of a cop who has to make some decisions about when to shoot, don't shoot kind of issue. But so that is something that we'd be happy to do, and certainly extend you an invitation to do so.